Nosy Nancy's is a true crime podcast based in Austin, Texas. If you are sensitive to any of the trigger words, this is not the podcast for you. Due to its graphic nature, listener discretion is advised.
Somewhere between the sandy and beginning again. Well, I was just pretending that it's all just a dream. A little condescending to believing in it. I'm getting the notion that I'm going all in.
Oh, that would have been embarrassing. Okay. Hey, all you nosies. I'm Alequah.
And I'm Jasmine, and welcome to Nosy Nancy's episode 9?
No, we're on episode 11 of season 2.
Well, welcome to episode 11 of season 2.
Do you know what year it is?
2024.
Well, hey, we got that going for us.
I'm glad I got it right.
Yeah. I'm going to still be writing 2023 for like at least 10 more years.
No, honestly, me too. I wrote 2023 on something the other day. It was awful. Embarrassing.
Yeah. Embarrassing. God, we're just girls.
I mean, we're just doing our little best.
Can I tell you the most embarrassing thing that happened to me this week?
What happened?
Okay. So this is going to be free advertising for this place, but every month, but it's going to stop in March. But every month they have drag queen bingo at this place called Still Austin, which is basically like a whiskey bar.
Oh, okay.
It's so fun. It's free bingo. You just go in, you get a little card, and there's a drag queen. I forget her name. I've only gone twice, but she's hilarious, and she hosts it. So she'll call out the numbers, and then between sets or whatever, she'll do a lip sync, and it's a lot of fun. And
that
you just
really cool.
Oh my god, it's so cool. It's so every month it's the second and last Sunday. But in March, they're actually just going to be doing it the second Sunday, and the last Sunday they're going to be doing drag karaoke, which is going to be hilarious. I just know it.
Are you going?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Absolutely. Their drinks are really good, but also it's just a really good vibe. The place is kind of cool. It's off of St. Elmo's, which is down south, but it's like a bunch of old airplane hangars, probably 6 or 7 in a row. And there's just different bars and shops and eateries, and it's a really cool little spot in Austin. But here's the thing, okay? I'm at Austin still. I'm waiting for Carissa and her girlfriend Amy. And drag queens, okay, I love drag queens, right? They are a force to be reckoned with. They're my favorite thing that's ever happened on this planet. They're hilarious. You have to be a good drag queen, you have to be coordinated, for one. Okay, and you have to be witty as fuck.
No, that's true.
This drag queen is so funny. Anyways, so I got really nervous because she was going around to tables, and I want to be cool, right? Because I want drag queens to love me as much as I love them,
right?
And she comes up to me and she's like, "Hey, girl," blah blah blah, and I'm like, I get so nervous. I offered her cocaine, and I don't even do cocaine. I don't even know.
Were you just hey, want some cocaine?
I was so nervous because I really wanted her to think I was cool. So I was like, "Oh, you want to go do a bump in the bathroom?" She was like,
what?
She was like, "No, girl, I'll do that after." And I'm like, "Okay, look, I don't do drugs, okay? The only coke I do is in a can, all right? And it ends with Ola, okay?" So I was so mortified. It's what if she had said yes? Right?
Honestly, like, I could not have done any better. If it makes you feel any better, I could not have done any better.
Oh God, I wanted to die. I don't. What is wrong with me? Like, what is what is mentally, fundamentally, and emotionally wrong with me?
You did
Who
way
does
better
that?
than me. You did way better than me. Because if she would have come up to me and been like, "Hey, girl," I just would have been like,
You would have just passed out.
Yeah.
right then and there.
I just would have passed away.
You'd have been like one of those little animals that get nervous and throw their babies at their predators.
Yes, that is me.
You would just pick somebody's random child and throw it at the drag queen because you get so nervous. But I mean, like, because I really want them to like me, you know?
Yes, of course. Who doesn't want them to like them? Well, GOP moms and stuff like that.
I know,
so.
yeah. Do you think we have any conservative people that listen to this podcast? That's probably why we have a 4.8 rating on Spotify, not a 5 point.
Probably.
It's because we cuss too much.
It's true. They don't like it.
So we have a pretty big, I think we have a pretty big episode, or at least we have a lot of stuff to talk about this episode.
There's
I
a
say
lot
that
of
every
ground
episode.
to cover. I got a lot of ground to cover.
Well,
kind of.
Let's put our little legs in motion and let's start covering this ground, shall we?
All right. So this week it's not okay. So it's not entirely a cold case. It's not entirely a mystery. Nobody really knows what happened, but it's crazy. But it could be a cold case, but it could not be. So I don't know. Take it
happening
for what it is. It's just
so confusing.
It is bizarre. It's honestly bizarre, and I don't know how to explain it without explaining it. So let me go ahead and get to work on this.
Well, just for the record, I'm already having an existential crisis.
Okay,
so go ahead.
Well, I sent a picture to Alequah of this. Okay, so I'm going to be covering Katherine Korzilius. That's Korzilius. And the last time I'm going to be saying that. She will hereby be referred to as Katherine. Katherine was a 6-year-old girl. She had just turned 6. She was living actually a pretty charmed life in an upscale neighborhood in Austin on Elder Circle, which is in the Bee Caves area of Austin. Her father, Paul, was the personal manager of none other than Jon Bon Jovi. Oh, what? Yeah. So he worked a majority of the time out of town, obviously, touring and doing whatever. And he had an office in New York. So that's where he was during this time. So on August 7th, 1996, it actually was Paul's birthday that day, which he was in New York with Jon Bon Jovi.
So Paul is her father.
Paul is the father.
Okay, got it.
But on August 7th, Katherine, her mother Nancy, and her brother Chris were just out having a little family day. They were running errands. They got a gift for the dad for his birthday. Went and had a little lunch, whatever. In the afternoon, they returned to their neighborhood, which it's Elder Circle is the name of the street. So it's obviously circular. Oh, what I was saying was that I sent Alequah this picture. And then we'll post it also.
It's like a cul-de-sac.
Yeah, it's like a cul-de-sac type of thing, but like it's very long. But we'll post it too. So whatever you're doing, if you're driving or whatever, just stop what you're doing and look at this picture so you understand.
If you are on Mopac right now, stop immediately.
Just immediately pull over or don't. I mean, if you can multitask, then don't worry about it.
Obviously, don't text and drive.
But do look at the picture.
Yeah.
So they arrived to the community mailbox, which if you look, are you looking at the picture really quick?
I am. Oh my God. Yes, I have it.
All right. Look at it.
I can see the vacant lot.
Yes, the vacant lot. Okay. So they stopped at the community mailbox. I mean, obviously, everybody's mail gets delivered here. So if you're entering this kind of circular street and you want to pick up your mail, you got to stop at the community box.
Got it.
The community boxes were...
That's what they used to call me in high school.
Oh my God.
Community
The
box.
community box.
I'm just kidding. That's not true.
So the way that Nancy, the mom, had entered the street was the car was pointing, it would be north. So the car was pointing north, which means that they would have taken the longer way to get to the family home.
Oh, so okay, so they would have turned not where the so they would have turned on the opposite side of where the vacant lot is. So they would go down the other way.
Yes.
Okay, got you.
So
Got you.
Nancy stops the car and Katherine gets out. She gets the mail. She brings it back to her mom and she asks the mom, is it okay if I walk home? So Nancy said yes, because they're living in a safe, quiet neighborhood. The walk was about a quarter of a mile, like 5 minutes. And it was actually something that Katherine and her brother Chris had done both together and by themselves. So she said yes. So Katherine takes off in the direction of the vacant lot, which would have been the shorter way to get to the family home.
So they were going opposite directions.
Yeah, so
basically.
they're now going opposite directions in this circle.
Right.
So Nancy...
So wait, what's this main street where the mailbox and what's the main street that Elder Circle is off of?
Okay, so that main street is Barrett Lane.
Okay, Barrett Lane.
Barrett Lane.
Okay, still not a super popular road. It's not like it's off of Bee Caves itself. It's just within,
Not that it necessarily matters, but I looked at some of these houses, which some of them have been remodeled and some of them haven't, but these are ritzy homes. These are rich people. Yeah. I mean, the manager's the personal assistant of Jump on Joey.
that guy.
That dude. That popular man. So, I mean, they have money. They have a nice home. You know what I mean? So this is a safer neighborhood that I think also it's probably kind of a misconception that there are not a lot of swarthy kind of people around because, people, if they have construction going on or whatever, I mean, there's still all types of people in this neighborhood, but.
Yeah. I mean, this is not Cuernavaca we're talking about.
Yeah.
Which is where Greg lives. But Cuernavaca is kind of like the poorer neighborhood of BK, but still it's still a really nice expensive yeah, exactly, right.
These homes during this time were $250,000 to buy in 1996.
Yeah, so now they'd be over $1 million at least.
Yeah. So Nancy watches Katherine for a second and then takes off. They're going in the opposite direction.
Right.
So Nancy and Chris got to the house and they got out of the car. They're bringing their shit in, their groceries or whatever they bought. And they're kind of putting stuff away. And Chris brings it to Nancy's attention that Katherine hasn't come home yet.
Oh, no.
And Nancy was like, oh, well, maybe she stopped, at the neighbor's house. She's a little girl, so if she sees another kid outside, she might get distracted
she's gonna
or
play.
Right. So Nancy first goes to the neighbor's house and asks if Katherine is there. And the neighbors say, no, we haven't seen her. So then she goes back home and gets Chris and says, okay, let's drive around and go look for her. So they drive back in the direction that Katherine walked, which would be bringing them back around her trail to the mailboxes.
Right.
And they didn't see any sign of her. They go back around in the original direction that they came, and there she was, laying in the street. The time that she was found, now this is kind of important. Excuse me. This is kind of important because the time that she was found, it said, was about 4:15. Allegedly, within 15 minutes of Nancy and Chris arriving home, which is probably not factual because, I mean, they were loading shit out of the car and putting stuff away. You know what I mean? It's easy to lose track of time whenever you're busy.
Yeah.
So Nancy...
What was this, like a fucking hit and run?
Well, nobody knows. Nancy runs out of the car, picks Katherine up, and drives her to the hospital. Now, there is an Unsolved Mysteries episode on this particular, you know, I mean, it's not a full episode. It's just a little blurb. But Nancy is interviewed, and as is Paul. But Nancy says, you know, I know that I shouldn't move someone if I don't know the extent of their injury, but it's my daughter, and it's it's August. And it's over.
She's gonna die of a heat stroke.
Yeah, it's over 96 degrees, and she's laying on the hot pavement.
I think, like, instinctually, though, like, you would pick up a child from the... I mean, like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I agree. But she did admit that she shouldn't have, you know, she shouldn't have done that, but that's what she did. Katherine...
I don't blame her.
Yeah, I don't either, really. Katherine was taken to the hospital, which wasn't very far away. The extent of her injuries were pretty severe. She was put on a ventilator, and she later died of her injuries at around 11:30 p.m.
Yeah, this is interesting because it's like, how did she get way over or past her house in that short amount of time?
Yeah.
Like, somebody had, like, I was going to say, oh, it's probably a hit and run, but it wouldn't be in the right, that's not the right spot. If she was walking home, she wouldn't have been hit and ran or whatever.
Right.
She wouldn't have been hit by a car way the fuck up there.
Exactly.
Past her house.
Exactly. So Paul, unfortunately, like, once he heard about what was happening with Katherine, he tried to charter a flight home. But unfortunately, he did not make it in time before she passed away.
Sad.
So initially, police thought that they were looking for a hit and run driver, that Katherine just either walked past the house or she started walking, you know, in the direction that, like, changed direction and started walking in the direction that her mom drove.
Right.
So they put up flyers. They asked for potential witnesses. Unfortunately, nobody saw Katherine, which these are bigger houses. There's, like, a lot of landscaping and a lot of land, like, long driveway bullshit. So it would make sense that they probably aren't paying attention to people walking, or either that or can't see people walking in the street. But
you would think, though, there'd be, like, housewives, because, like, you know, these people are wealthy.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, not everybody works. So, like, you would think at least one person was at home.
Yeah. Well, definitely people were at home.
Were there.
But, you know, these are the type of housewives that they're not, like, busy cleaning like the maid's doing that. They're busy lounging.
No, right. Right.
Lounging by the pools.
Goals.
Yeah. So, So the autopsy report came back, and that's when police concluded that this was most likely not a case of a hit and run.
Okay.
And the reason is because Catherine's skull was severely fractured. And that was the injury that caused her to pass away. But she had nothing else that would be congruent with a hit and run.
Right.
She
like
had
no road rash or whatever.
Yeah, she had no road rash. She had no broken bones or internal bleeding. She did have some abrasions, though, on her back, shoulder, knees, and elbows and hands. So I guess she did have road rash. That
okay.
That would be consistent with either falling out of or off of a moving vehicle. So then the theory that the police came up with, and the theory that to this day, like, a lot of people are sticking by, and I'm not really sure why, because I'm about to debunk it with the help of somebody else. But the police said Katherine changed her mind on walking home and instead jumped on the back of the family's Suburban and held on while they went and ended up falling off and hitting her head.
Ooh.
The family was not buying this bullshit, and they ended up hiring their own private investigator who discredited it by pointing out some inconsistencies. So the first being, she's 6. And she just turned 6. This was a SUV, a Suburban. So how is a 6-year-old little girl going to climb on the back of a Suburban, and that, like, the only bar for her to hold on to would be at the top near the back,
right?
Which she could not reach.
Not like right. It's not like she has a wingspan of like that can really hold on to either side of the Suburban either.
Yeah, exactly. So the only other spot for her to hold on to would have been the actual door handle for the back door of the Suburban, which would have opened the back door.
Well, not. What if they locked it, though? What if they locked the back door?
They could have, but I mean, but okay, all right, fair point.
Seems like a weird.
Fair point. Fair point.
No, but it's just, but it's a weird spot to even hold on to, though.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, that seems like an awkward spot.
Well, yeah, and so there's that, and also the fact that Katherine had a broken finger that was in a splint. So, she
can't hold on to anything.
Yeah, she wouldn't have much of a grip on the car to even have made it to the spot where she was found. Like, if this was the case, she probably would have fallen off a lot sooner than making it halfway home. So
yeah, you're right.
The other thing is that it's 96 degrees outside. Like, this car is fucking hot. It's been out in the sun all day. They've been running errands all day. So how long could she have held on to a boiling hot car? This little girl. So this
that seems like it would have.
I mean, the
been
Texas,
painful.
Yeah, Texas, like, summers and stuff. I can't even, I burn my hand buckling my fucking seatbelt sometimes.
Me too.
Like, it's fucking hot out here.
I mean, the only way I think that would make any, like, the only situation where I think that could be plausible is if they opened the back door and then put her in the back and she sat on the back and, like, because we would do that, we would do that as kids.
Right.
Like, or we would ride on the hood of the car.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But so, I mean, that could make sense, but, like, you'd have to be going pretty fast, I think, in order for her to fall and crack her head open and, like, scrape her, like...
Well, and, like, if someone's jumping on the back of the car, like, fucking Mission Impossible, I'm sure that Nancy would have felt something. But also, like, she didn't see her in the rearview mirror or any of the side mirrors. You know what I mean? So
I don't think she would have just jumped on the SUV. Like,
no.
And if she did, she would have fallen, and like, I don't think she would have fallen hard enough to like crack her head open. But
well, and I think that even if it was the case, okay, you know, but what I feel like she would have fallen off pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
Because she's got a broken ass finger. There's nowhere to hold on to, you know, but also, like, this is a little girl who's, you know, been given, like, a small taste of independence, of being able to walk home. Why would she just decide, oh, you know what? Like, no. I'll just go ahead and jump on the back of the car.
Like, if she wanted to, like, jump on the car, I think she would have asked, hey, can I ride on the back of the car? Instead of, hey, can I walk to the house?
Exactly. So,
but this is all according to her mother, so we really, you know, don't know.
Well, and that's the thing, is, like, a lot of people do blame Nancy.
The mom.
Right. Because a lot of people do buy this theory that Katherine changed her mind or whatever happened and jumped on the back of the car and held on and ended up falling off. But the private investigator that they had hired brought in canine units, which detected Katherine's scent in a small field that was on the vacant lot that was on the route that she took home. So the dogs smelled her there, and past that field, they lost her scent. So it is Nancy's theory that she was abducted there, and that she either was like, it could have been a drive-by, like, grab type of situation. And
she jumped out of the car.
She
jumped out of the car.
Yeah, she either jumped out of the car or was thrown out of the car. And that it is some sort of murder case. Because Nancy said, which, again, it's hard to say, because this is a mother who is seeing her daughter who hurt on the pavement, but Nancy said that Katherine's hair, shirt and shorts looked to have been smoothed out. Like, it looked like she was placed there on purpose. Both of her sandals were on. And if she was dropped out of a moving vehicle, how would her clothes have been smooth?
Like, what are we talking about timeline here? We're talking like 20 minutes, 30 minutes tops.
Yeah, allegedly 15 minutes.
Yeah, that seems like that seems like not a lot of time to, like, kill somebody. I mean, I don't know. I've never killed anybody. Maybe you can kill somebody pretty quick, but, like, or, I mean, I guess she wasn't dead when they disposed her, but they probably thought she was. If this was like a murder case, you know, they threw her out.
Right.
I think I'm with you. I think I'm more on the theory of she got snatched, because they're going the opposite direction. And if you have a little girl, okay, like, picture this, all right? It's an opportunity. They turn in, they snatch her up, they throw her in the back or whatever, and they're driving back around to hit the main road again, because you don't want to turn around. That's too much time wasted.
Yeah.
Right? It's just easier just to keep going. Then she freaks out, gets out of the car and jumps out and cracks her head open.
Yeah.
While the car is still moving. I mean, that would make sense, right?
See, and that's what I buy. Because why shouldn't... Because this is a ritzy-ass neighborhood does not mean that it's entirely trustworthy, or, you know, like, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a safe neighborhood.
This could be anybody.
Yeah, I mean, it could very well be somebody who's living in the neighborhood. You know, I mean, who knows what the case could have been.
It would make sense if it was somebody that was driving along the main road. What was that road called again?
Barrett Lane.
Edward Barrett Lane, who's driving down Barrett Lane, sees a little girl get out of a car by herself, does a U-turn somewhere up, you know, farther up on Barrett Lane, comes back around, and by this time, she's already by the vacant lot, right? Because she's walking.
Right.
Okay. He turns in because that's the direction that he saw her walking. Gets out of the car, probably leaves the car running, snatches her from the vacant lot, because that's probably about where she was at, throws her into the car, hightails it farther down Elder Circle, past her house. She sees that they're going past her house. She freaks out. She jumps out of the car, sustains injuries, and then he thinks, well, she's out now. She's going to tell, so he fucking hightails it back out to Barrett Lane. I mean, that would make sense.
I mean, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, also, snatch a child, you're not going to just cruise out of the neighborhood, right? You're going to fucking hightail it because you got a child in the backseat of your car. So, like, it would make sense if the car was going at a higher speed that she would sustain more injuries if she jumped out.
Right. I don't think that Nancy's theory that she was placed there after the fact makes complete sense, because, again, Nancy would have most likely been freaking the fuck out. She would not have been paying attention to the way that Katherine was laying. You know what I mean? But she says that everything was smoothed out. Katherine was pretty much laying on her back with her, like, her feet pointed perfectly in the air. I don't know that that's the truth.
Her feet was in the air?
Well, her toes. Her toes were pointing up.
Oh.
Her toes were upward.
Well, I mean, when you are faced with a situation, a dire situation, we disassociate because we have to, like, rely on our instincts. You have to like put emotion aside, and you have to fucking like face the situation head on. Right. And oftentimes when you disassociate, you don't remember things correctly, you know?
Right. No, I agree. I don't know. I think that that's one of those kind of false memories.
I think so,
where
too.
Your brain's just filling in the gaps.
I mean, think about it. 'Cause she dropped her off at the mailboxes, which is on Barrett Lane, right? And if you let your child you leave your child unattended, you don't know who the fuck is driving by at that exact moment.
No, it's true. Yeah. I mean, there's absolutely no telling what could have happened.
Right. I think it's a crime of opportunity, to be honest.
I think so too. I do think so too. People discredit the dogs in the vacant lot by saying, you know, she could have been playing there the other day and that's what the dogs are sniffing, not that she was like there that day. You know what I mean? Like they really try to put the blame on Nancy, and it honestly is because I feel personally during the episode of Unsolved Mysteries, which would have been their big chance, you know, to kind of get the story out and show everybody how much they were mourning, and that they were wanting answers. Nancy seems very cold and uncaring. They say that Nancy keeps trying to flip the theory to the abduction because she doesn't want to believe that Katherine's death is her fault. People grieve in all sorts of different ways, and I think this is something that Nancy's had to tell this fucking story to God knows how many people. So, yeah. I mean, at some...
And how many years had passed, you know?
Oh, that's a great question.
If she was being interviewed for this case, you know, 10 or 20 years later, then, like, she's not going to be as emotional as if she were to be, as if it was, like, you know, 2 years after the incident. But, like, at some point, you have to focus on, you know, whether or not your information is going to get the case solved, or if you're going to be crying on the, you know, on the interview, because, like, it's more about finding answers and less about your emotional state. Yeah. So, like, if this was 20 years after the incident happened, then I feel like people shouldn't judge her emotional state, because she's probably more determined to find the answers than to be emotional.
No, and that's what that, like, I think it's the case of she's had to explain this to the police. She's also probably super defensive because the police keep trying to blame her by being like, no, she jumped on the back of the car. You know, I mean, this is being spun in a way that probably does make Nancy feel like everybody thinks that she's a terrible mother. I cannot find the exact date that this episode aired, but I'm on the page for Catherine's Unsolved Mysteries episode, and I mean the comments are from like 2014. So
okay, that's still a long time after,
like a long time afterwards. So unfortunately, just nobody knows. Nancy gets blamed. Everybody still thinks it's Nancy. Everybody blames Nancy. They think that because of the way that Nancy appears on that episode, that she did it on purpose, even. But, I mean, also, like, the brother would have been old enough to say, like, if he saw anything, or if Nancy, like, if he saw Nancy go out of the way to kill Catherine, you know, her brother,
I was just about to ask that,
Chris, ended up actually becoming a police officer for Travis County, and he ended up dying in a car crash in 2020.
Are you joking?
Yeah, that's very sad.
What the fuck? What the hell?
So nobody knows what happened, but John Bon Jovi actually wrote a song dedicated to Catherine's memory called August 7th, 4:15. And the neighborhood also has a plaque on Elder Circle dedicated to Catherine's memory.
Wow. God, I can't believe the son is dead too.
I know.
That's tragic.
I know. It's just all around just bizarre.
Yeah, that's a sad story.
Like, what happened? I want to know.
That's a case, man.
Yeah, wow. It's weird. It is weird.
I personally think she got abducted. Like, and I think the abduction went wrong. I think she jumped out of her car, or the guy's car. And I'm going to say a guy because, you know, fuck it. Men are predators.
Men are pigs.
Yeah. And and I'm gonna say that she, you know, she fell out of the car, jumped out of the car, and it was moving fast, and I think that's what ultimately she succumbed to the wounds of that. But
yeah, that seems the likeliest to me. I really don't think that. I don't buy she's hanging on the back of the car.
No, yeah.
If it had been where if she would have been found much closer to the mailboxes, like, okay, but halfway home around the circle, no.
Yeah, the opposite direction, like, sorry, that's bizarre. So my case is also this really terrible case that also involves children.
Hard episode today.
Yeah, I feel like all the cold cases are just hard.
No,
because nobody gets justice. Yeah, nobody gets justice. We don't have the manpower or the means to like really solve these cases. And also I never heard about Catherine.
Yeah, I have never heard about Catherine either.
Not at all. In 1996 I was 12.
Yeah, never heard of her.
Never heard of her. All right, I never heard of this either, and I don't know if you have, but this case is actually pretty. It's an interesting case. But I do want to point out that this is Jacob, my bestie.
Yes.
So Jacob actually, his family owned a ranch out in Sonora, which is where this crime took place.
Oh, really?
And also, it took place on Jacob's birthday in 1968.
My God.
So, Jacob, I'm looking at you. I don't know how. I don't know how
you committed it, but
yeah,
you're guilty.
You weren't born until 1984, but you obviously had something to do with this case. Anyways, all right. So this is the Arellano family massacre. And I'm going to read off an article because there's just not a lot of information about this case. And it would just be easier. But I will talk about the suspects and the theories and stuff that go along with it. Okay. For any law enforcement officer, there are cases that are hard to forget. But for Edwards County Sheriff's Officer Chief Deputy Daryl Volkman, this one is haunting. I've never seen anything like this in the 33 years I've been doing this job, said Volkman. Volkman served as a police officer in San Antonio for over 30 years, and when he took a job in Edwards County, the case was just handed over from the Texas Rangers. We don't have a bad crime that's happened here about once every 3 years. That's what it said, but that's not what, I don't think that's correct. He goes, we have a bad crime that happens here about once every 3 years, said Volkman. But this was one of the century. It was a horrible crime. The story begins on April 16th, 1968. Volkman said the Arellano family, Father Manuel, his wife Monica, and his sister Rosa were traveling from Mexico with the couple's 3 children. They were going to San Angelo because they had a newborn in the family, said Volkman, but the Arellanos never made it. According to the police documents, the family's car had a flat tire off of a remote stretch of Highway 277 between Del Rio and Sonora. He didn't have a spare, so somebody picked him up and took him to Sonora, said Volkman. Volkman said witnesses reported seeing Manuel Sr. and his son Manuel Jr. in Sonora at a tire shop and local restaurant. A man driving a pickup truck reportedly drove the father and son back to where their car was, and little details are known to what exactly happened after that.
How long were they gone? Do we know?
I don't know. I do know that they were still there at night.
Were they eating in the restaurant, or were they trying to use the phone?
So it doesn't necessarily say, but I think that they were eating at the restaurant. So they knew who the man was that drove the pickup. They eventually found out because he gave a statement. But the problem is that I cannot find his name anywhere. I tried looking for him and they just don't have his name. But this is in 1968, so
is he dead? A dead guy?
I would assume so. I mean, this was in 1968. He was probably at least in his 20s. So, he'd be in his 80s now.
Interesting.
Yeah. Volkman said road crews discovered the massacre that had happened overnight. So there's been some discrepancy over this, because actually in another article, they said that it was a ranch hand that found the massacre.
Oh,
it wasn't. Really? Yeah. The car was left abandoned and there was bodies scattered everywhere, said Volkman. The road crews found the 2 children first, both under the age of 2, shot in the head and killed.
Oh my God.
This is also not entirely true, because I've had other reports say that the little girl she was shot in the head as well, but she was actually alive when they found her, but then eventually succumbed to her wounds and she passed away. Yeah. 3 miles down Highway 277, they found the bodies of Manuel Sr., his wife, and sister. His sister was Rosa, and Rosa had been sexually assaulted.
Oh my God.
Then the crews made another discovery. Hidden in the tall grass, they found a 5-year-old boy in a pool of blood. Authorities later learned he had been shot and stabbed, but he was still alive.
Oh.
So that was Manuel Jr., and he was rushed to the hospital where he had multiple surgeries on his brain, and he ended up surviving.
Really?
Yeah. Volkman said that it was a miracle the boy survived. I do believe that he saw his family killed. It's the oldest unsolved mass murder, said Volkman. A memorial stands today near Dry Devils River Bridge, the only reminders of the horrors that happened along the roadway. Over the years, investigators had some promising leads, but have yet to find the killer or killers. They were on a real hot track for a while, and it just went cold for some reason or another, said Volkman. The longer it gets, the colder it gets.
Damn.
But for this retired, I know. But isn't that the case? I mean, that's what it seems to be with all these.
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
Especially in 1968, because like they just didn't have the technology. Yeah, right. And if they're anything like the Austin Police Department, a lot of the fucking evidence is destroyed.
Yeah, no shit.
Or tampered. But for this retired San Antonio police officer, the 20th investigator in the case, it's a mystery Volkman said he's determined to solve. So Volkman said he believes there were two killers, not one like originally believed by investigators. I always thought that there were at least two that were suspects. I didn't think that one man could have caused all this damage and turmoil by himself, said Volkman. Volkman said that he didn't believe one person could have restrained Manuel Sr. and killed the two children at the same time. Yeah. Sure that if you would have shot two of his children, he would have fought like an animal, he added.
Right.
Plus, he said there were 3 miles between where the bodies were found. The car also believed to have been moved after the first two murders. Former Edwards County Sheriff Don Letzinger was just beginning his career in law enforcement and remembers the fear that clenched 3 counties after the murders. The feeling around was that there's somebody, maybe someone from our county here in Edwards County, someone from Sutton County, or someone out of Valverde County that is capable of murdering 5 people, said Letzinger. Letzinger said the Texas Rangers led the investigation for many years, and shortly after they found the little boy, investigators questioned him about what happened. That's the only person to get a description from that was still alive, said Letzinger. And the description the boy gave to authorities wasn't too unusual in this rural, I hate that word.
Rural.
And the description the boy gave to authorities wasn't too unusual in this rural county. He gave a kind of description about a tall cowboy with a cowboy hat and high-top boots with his pants inside his boots, said Letzinger. Police records indicate witnesses also saw the family with a man described as a cowboy. It was all kinds of people saying, "We think this is who it is," but nothing ever came of it, said Letzinger. Although one of the investigators spoke Spanish to the little boy, Volkman still believes a language barrier may have misled the investigators on other leads. Transcripts from the boy's interview outlines the little boy's confusion. One time they'd asked him, was he an American? He goes, no, we didn't get any ice cream. So he just didn't understand what they were talking about, said Volkman.
What the fuck? Why would they keep asking him questions?
Well, because he was the only one that was alive.
Well, I mean, obviously, but, like, if he doesn't understand, why couldn't they have found somebody to, effectively communicate what it is that they're needing?
Right. Because this was in 1968, and they were probably racist as fuck.
Well, I keep forgetting what year it is.
Yeah. But a few years later, a twist came into the case. A man was convicted in California of a strikingly similar crime. He was the guy who fixed the flat in Sonora, said Volkman.
Really?
Could this man be the cowboy reportedly seen with the family before they died? They were convinced that this individual was part of it, said Letzinger. They went to California and they got his DNA. It did not match anything that was in the evidence. And then, decades later, Volkman thought he had another strong lead. A man connected to the case, still living in Edwards County, but Volkman said DNA tests were inconclusive. Volkman said the evidence has posed a big challenge in solving this case. I really feel that it's contaminated because in 1968, law enforcement didn't handle that type of evidence like we handle it today, he said.
Exactly.
As another year, yeah, right. I mean, they probably just were like, oh, blood-soaked jeans, trash.
Yeah, gross.
Yeah. As another year passes and another year the case gets colder, Volkman still sorts through all the nearly dozen binders of evidence. He said it's something he takes home with him at night. I'm not able to sleep at night. Sometimes I walk the floor and I keep playing these photographs in the back of my mind, said Volkman. The veteran law enforcement officers said the crime scene photos of children shot in the head is hard to forget. I don't understand why anyone would want to kill an 18-month-old baby, much less shoot two other young children, said Volkman. All of the individuals here were more or less executed. And as difficult as finding who's responsible might be after 50 years, Volkman said he still wants to find justice for the only survivor of this vicious crime and the family left behind. He needs answers. This thing needs to be solved, said Volkman. Volkman said he hopes that there's still someone out there who will come forward with new information. 52 years old, suspects are leaving us, he said. Even if the person now is deceased, he's going to pay his price with someone else. If you have information about this crime, you're asked to call the Edwards County Sheriff's Office.
Well, I hope that he really finds out who fucking did this.
Yeah, well, okay. So this is what I was saying. Like, Volkman said that, you know, it was road crew that had found the bodies. Mm-hmm. But the Texas Rangers actually tracked down the ranch hand who supposedly had found the bodies.
Right.
But he had nothing to add. And also they were like they went back to try to find the Buick that had the flat tire. Uh-huh. And they actually gave up because they convinced themselves that it was actually destroyed in the salvage yard. The lead investigator at that time was Ranger A.Y. Ailey Jr., and he died in January.
Wow.
Which was January 2020. So this is an article from 2020. But Long has a sworn statement from him that could be used in court. The investigators has taken Long all over the country and in Mexico, where he found Manuel Jr. He was taken to Mexico after recovering from multiple brain surgeries and raised by his grandmother. At the time of this article, he was 42 years old, and he was married, and he was working in the financial industry.
Have they been able to, like, revisit, like, had they ever tried to revisit the thing with him, or he just remembers the same thing?
So they did, actually. Yeah, so they asked, so back when they went to Mexico, what this article is talking about, they went to Mexico and they found Manuel Jr., who at the time was 42 years old. And they tried asking him again, but he didn't have any new information because, I mean, this was when he was 5, I guess. And he, like, after succumbing, after he had multiple brain surgeries as well. So I would imagine that probably took a toll on his memory.
Yeah.
But he did say, that the suspect, the cowboy, was 30 to 35 years old, that he was really tall, but to a 5-year-old, I mean, that could have been, that could have been a guy that was 5'10",
yeah,
right?
You could be tall to a 5-year-old.
Right, depending on how short the 5-year-old is. But so they actually got a description from him after the incident took place, and he described a tall cowboy with sandy blonde hair, light eyebrows, who was 30 to 35 and over 6 foot. He also had his jeans tucked into his cowboy boots, and he had cowboy boots with eagles or hawks on the side. Now, there's been rumors that was actually the son of a rich ranch owner in the area at the time, in Sonora, and that they were covering up, that they knew about it, but that his father was so rich and powerful that they really couldn't do anything about it.
Really?
Which, I mean, could be the case, but I really do think it was the guy that they later caught in California.
Yeah, the cowboy guy.
Yeah, the cowboy guy. And I mean, it could have been both of them.
Yeah.
But there's been a huge, like, I looked on Nextdoor, and on Nextdoor they were saying it. They were saying that it was the son of this rich, ranch owner. On Reddit, they said the same thing, that there's been rumors for years and years that it was the son of this rich farmer.
I tend to lean more so towards the cowboy guy too. I mean, it does make sense, but the rich landowner, but I don't know, man. Something about that fucking cowboy.
No, I
mean,
mean,
around the family the whole time.
Well, that's just it, right? I mean, they know they placed him at the scene. They know he was there with the family, and then they know for certain that he was convicted of a similar crime in California. Right. The problem is they will not release his name, and I have no idea who he was. I don't know if he's incarcerated still. I don't know if he's dead. I don't know if he died in prison. I don't know if he got out. I don't know anything about it, which sucks because, I would like to know, that eventually justice was sought by the form of biological, like of him just dying of old age in prison or whatever,
Well, and I think that's the toughest thing about these, like, cold cases is that, like, there hasn't been justice. Like, there is no justice with these.
No, right.
Like, and who knows, like, I mean, it sounds like, what's his name? Volkman. It sounds like Volkman is actively still trying to do his best, but, in a lot of these cases, like, who the fuck is still, like, they're not going to, quote unquote, waste the manpower when they have other active cases on constantly examining and re-examining and re-looking at evidence and retesting. You know what I mean? And that's what sucks, is really that these probably are going to remain unsolved.
Well, and the thing too is, like,
not to be cryptic.
Just like with the missing persons and stuff, like, there's usually only like one detective on cold cases per area.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And what's really frustrating about this case is that it probably was the guy in California.
Yeah.
And they just don't have the evidence to like for sure say it. I mean, it's all circumstantial, right? I mean, but like back in 1968, they didn't have, they just didn't preserve it correctly. So that doesn't mean that he didn't do it. It just means that they don't have the correct evidence to link him to it, or at least the DNA to link him to it.
Yeah, and that's another thing is that, like, it's both good and bad, but it's like, we've gone through so many cases where it's obvious who fucking did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even in some cases, they have the evidence.
Right.
But our justice system is so fucking, like, loosey-goosey that nobody can be convicted or stay convicted or whatever. It's bullshit.
It sucks for cases like this, right? Because you know that the guy in California probably did it.
Yeah.
But it is important that people don't convict based solely on circumstantial evidence, because that can put a lot of innocent people in prison too, No,
and I agree, but I feel the way that I feel.
It's still frustrating. Yeah, no, I mean, it is. It's super frustrating because it's like, can't we just pick and choose, like, which ones are we?
Yeah, like, let's examine them on a case by case basis.
Yeah, but then, right. But then we can't do that because it's like people are just not inept to do it.
Well, we are. So put us on the juries.
I know. Put us on the forensics team. What's really interesting about this case too, though, is that so they never found out who did it, right? But there's been a folklore connected to this incident with the Mexican people. So anybody that's traveling from Mexico to Texas, they won't drive down that highway because they believe of something called the Loma Alta devil, or ghost.
Oh.
So it's, yeah. So a storekeeper by the name of Feingen, they own the store, the Lone Oasis, which is like on the 90-mile highway between Del Rio and Sonora, which is where, this massacre occurred. They've had people come in talking about ghosts. They've had a preacher come in to kind of like cleanse out the store and everything.
What is it supposed to be? Do they have a description?
No, they just think it's a ghost or a devil. I'll read what it says. So Carol Feingen, who with her husband owns a nearly 80-year-old Loma Alta store where the Arellano family repaired their first flat, has heard talk about how Mexicans won't stop there or travel the road. It seems like a ghost thing they were talking about or something like that, said Feingen, whose store is the Lone Oasis on the winding 90-mile highway between Del Rio and Sonora. A preacher once came into the store to get rid of the Loma Alta devil or ghost, she recalled. Another time, she was questioned by a man who said he was a private investigator looking into some killings. That's the story of the Arellano family massacre.
Man, these are crazy stories.
I know.
Today.
It's so sad.
God.
It's such a sad situation.
It's so fucking bizarre. How do you think you're gonna die? Not to be morbid, but I just want to know.
Honestly, I think I'm gonna die, like, probably of a heart attack because I eat so much shit. But I don't know. I was thinking about that, with like Aaron's death, and like, this is that like relevant because it's not, and I don't really. But there's just this person that I follow on TikTok whose best friend was just killed on December 30th by a drunk driver, and it's just like, and I don't know this person, right? I don't know this person, but like, and I don't have any really connection to them other than I think their videos are kind of funny, but it's just sad because they're grieving their best friend, and it's like, fuck, dude, like, you really don't know, what's gonna happen to you, like, I don't know if I don't die in an accident, I mean, I might live to be kind of old. All my grandparents have been in their 90s when they died. One of my great grandmother was my great grandmother. She was 103 when she died. So, no, she was 105.
Damn.
Sorry, 105. Yeah. So it's like, what the fuck? I don't know. I certainly haven't been preparing like I'm going to be living for a long time. What about you? How do you think you're going to die?
Probably choking to death on my own food. What is happening? Are you laughing or your audio?
Laughing. Probably choking on my own food. God, that would be, honestly, Jasmine, that's the worst way to go.
I know, it'd be terrifying. I'm gonna hate it when it happens.
Why don't you just chew your food better?
I need to.
You know what, though? Every time I eat a steak, I like, am so terrified that I'm gonna choke. And I've often, like, this is going to be gross, but I've often, like, reached in and pulled food out of my mouth because I'm, like, too afraid to swallow. It's like some kind of weird, like, disconnect in my brain to my mouth, which happens all the time, as you know, sitting here listening to me talk. But like, it's like hard for me to swallow sometimes, and I freak out. I just pull out food. Like, I panic. I don't know.
I just imagine you sitting there and you're just happy eating, and then your eyes get wide all of a sudden, and you like just put your fingers in your mouth and you scoop out all this half-chewed stuff.
Yes, it's so true. That is exactly how it is. I'm sitting there, I'm watching Netflix, I'm eating, and then I'm like, oh, and I like panic, and I just like, I pull this food out of my mouth. It's bizarre. I don't know. So I'm probably going to choke with you. We're probably both going to die choking because we're fat.
Exactly. That's how I think it's going to happen. So I'm not looking forward to it.
Have you always thought that, or is it just recently that you've decided this is how it's going to go?
No, yeah, I always thought that because I almost choked on a hot dog when I was in elementary school. And I started panicking, and everybody thought that I was joking. So they all started laughing. And, like,
That's terrible.
Didn't know what to do. So I tried to drink some of my milk, and I don't know what happened. It eventually, like, slid out. But, like, I couldn't breathe or anything.
Oh, my God. You literally were choking.
Yeah, I was literally, like, dying. And all the kids thought that I was joking.
Oh my God!
And then the lunch monitor came over because she sat there and saw the whole thing, but she came over and was like, "You need to quit playing around." And I'm like, "I was choking to death." And she's like, "Well, if you're choking, you shouldn't drink milk." And I'm like, "Well, it may have saved my life."
Okay, well, thanks a lot, lady. What were you doing?
Exactly, like
Farmville. What the fuck?
Yeah. So yeah, that's why I think I'm gonna go that way. I'm like, it's gonna happen again, and I'm not gonna have any milk around, and then I'm just gonna expire.
Man, I mean, terrible way to go. But like once when I was like, I guess I was like 6 or 7, maybe 8. I don't know maybe I was 10. I don't know how old I was. But we were at Lake Travis. My mom's friend Heidi came down, and she from Houston, and her son Travis and I were like kind of friends. So we all like went to this like little cabin, and somebody had a boat. I don't know who the fucking guy was that had the boat. All right. But he's like, get into this inner tube. And I wasn't like, I was chubby, but like, I wasn't like fat. And like, and like this inner tube was huge compared to my little body.
Yeah. And
I get into this inner tube, and like, I don't know what it was, but like, I guess it was the suction of my body and like the water, and it was like, but I got stuck in this inner tube, but like on my belly, right? I'm on my belly, I'm like spread eagle, right? My head is like facing the back of the boat, and I'm like a little squirrel, you know, when they fly. I'm like a little flying that's how my position was.
Yeah.
So I guess I was like the suction or whatever, I couldn't move, and like I almost drowned. I told them, stop.
My God.
Because if I had like, if the boat had, or like, because you know they like go fast, and then you're supposed to move back and forth, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But like, if I didn't tell them to stop the boat and I would have fallen over, I would have fucking got stuck on the inner tube and died.
Oh my fucking God! I would be so traumatized.
I was so traumatized. I still think about it today. I know I was wearing this like pink bathing suit. Like I remember it. I remember when they got me out of the inner tube, it was hard for them to get me out because like I was for real stuck. I was stuck.
Oh my God.
I don't know how that happened. I have no idea. My little belly, I guess, created this like suction. Who knows? But anyways, we should probably talk about the missing person.
Okay.
Enough about me. Enough about us. Let's talk about the missing person. Okay. So this week's missing person is Nelvi Ramirez. Nelvi Ramirez was last seen in Houston, Texas on July 7th, 2023. So she's been missing for a while.
Wow.
The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children are asking the public's help to find a Houston teen who has been missing for nearly 7 months. So Nelvi Ramirez is 15 when she went missing. She is described as being 5 foot 4 inches tall and weighing 160 pounds. She has brown eyes and brown hair. If you have any information that could help authorities find Nelvi or know details about her disappearance, please contact the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-THE-LOST. That's 1-800-843-5678, or the Houston Police Department at 713-884-3131. She's been missing a while, so we need to get her home. I will post her picture on the groups and on Instagram.
Okay, wonderful.
All right. I think that concludes this episode. Episode 11.
Well, what a sad and bizarre episode.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe next episode we could talk about good things.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Is next week Zach and Amanda's episode?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
9, 10, 11. No. Oh, yeah, it is.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Well,
good.
We'll have Zach and Amanda back on. Good.
I love it. Yeah, if you like us, you can follow us on Instagram.
It's Nosy Nancy's.
And you can join our Facebook or follow our Facebook page.
It's Nosy Nancy's podcast.
If you have any questions, concerns, comments, stories, or anything, you can email us at nosynancies@gmail.com. That's NOSEY at, I always do that, NOSEYNANCIES@gmail.com. Also, if you do like our podcast and you want to help us spread the word of these cold cases and missing people in the Austin area in Texas, you can please rate us on wherever you listen to our podcast on.
5
and also
stars
share
to cancel out the conservatives that are bringing us down.
Yeah. Probably my mother. She's not conservative, but she probably was like, y'all cuss too much. Dislike. But yeah, dislike. So yeah, if you could follow us or subscribe and rate and share us, that would be really helpful. But until then, yeah, thanks in advance.
All right.
But until then, we'll see ya. Oh, sorry.
God.
C'est la vie, ma